How to beat Leeds United. Sunderland took 4 points off Leeds last year, with Joe popping up at Christmas time to send Leeds packing. And this Friday, we've got Black Cats here hoping they do it all over again. Two huge clubs, many would argue, two of the biggest clubs in the Championship meet as Sunderland welcome Leeds to the Stadium Light. We've got Dylan, we've got Leo, and we've got Cal here ready to review the game. And, of course, discuss what on earth happened at Watford. Welcome to the shortest but most comprehensive review of all things Sunderland on the internet. This is where Black Cats walk. Welcome back, Cal and Leo, and of course Dylan. We've been talking to you for the last couple of weeks. How are you, fellas? All right?
Yeah, great.
Good stuff, and thank you for watching. Coming up then, we are talking defensive midfielders as we jump into the next realm of going through this Sunderland squad. We'll talk about what happened at Watford, and first up, we're going to preview the Leeds game this weekend. Before we do that, quiz for you at home. We are looking for the three players on the screen that played for both Sunderland and Leeds. MB, MW, LM, and we'll give you the answers at the end, and you three can start figuring that as well. Three players that play for Sunderland and for Leeds. Right then, let's get straight into it. Cal, when people say these are the two biggest clubs in the Championship meeting on Friday, are they right?
I'd say so, yeah. Sheffield United aren't far behind us. Obviously, they've had a pretty decent run in the last few years, being in the Premier League. But yeah, we are. I'd say we're the two biggest. Yeah.
We're doing this before the Derby game, Dylan, so we don't know the result of that one. But all eyes are going to be on the Stadium Light this Friday. I think this is a huge, huge game, and this will tell us, won't it, a little bit about how Sunderland are going to shape up for the season, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's the league's sort of really wide open this year in terms of the top end of the table. It's there for the take, and there's only a handful of teams that on paper looks like they're going to be confirmed to be around the top. Like you get us, West Brom, Leeds are definitely another one of those teams. So it's going to probably be the biggest challenge so far, bar Burnley. So yeah, need to get off to a good start early in that game and hopefully get an early goal.
Yeah, we'll get into the team in a second. Leo, do you think this Leeds team is weaker than the one you beat last year? We took 4 points off them, as we mentioned, Job's winner, and then 1-1 at their place.
Yeah, I think it is. But obviously, to be honest, I still think they have a Premier League quality side, or at least a good few Premier League quality players in there. Obviously, they've lost Somerville in the summer. They've lost Jorginho Rutter, but they've got Matteo Joseph, who all their fans seem to be raving about as the next best thing, and he's looked okay so far. And Willie Nonto's got off to a good start. They've obviously still got Ethan Ampadu, which is one of the best and versatile players in the league, can play at the back, play midfield. They've got a quality side, so I think it is weakened, but they've still got plenty there. That poses a threat.
Can I ask you all about the timing of this game? You've got Derby on Tuesday night, as mentioned, and then you've got this 3 days later. Obviously, it's easier for you than at home, but Dylan, do you think that's going to impact on his team selection for Derby and actually think about Friday more, or will he just go hell for leather for both?
I think we're going to have to just sort of put out our best sides for both, especially obviously on the back of a loss. It's a couple of days, it's a quick turnaround, yeah. But I mean, sometimes you play a Saturday, Tuesday. Would the extra day, if it had been a Saturday kickoff, would it have been any different? No, it's Friday night from Tuesday. I think should be all right. So, and we've got, well, hopefully we'll have a couple of lads back fit. So if he does want to rotate, he can. But no, I'm not too concerned with the times, to be honest.
Okay. I want to chat to you about last year's result. Here's the team that beat Leeds last year. Let me just remove the thing so we can see all of it. It was Bellingham, as we mentioned, with the goal there, Cal. Looking at last year's Sunderland side, is this stronger or weaker than the team you've been watching so far this season? And if so, in which areas?
I think there's players in there that shouldn't even be in a Sunderland shirt anymore. I feel like I feel like that team is a weaker team. I mean, Abdullah Bar, I don't really want to get started on it. Jensen Sealt, I thought that he came in and he played okay for some games, but he's young. He's got much experience playing men's professional football. Then obviously we don't have Jack Clark anymore, and Niall Huggins. Yeah, I mean, you got to feel sorry for the lad. He's been hampered by injuries his whole career, but I think the team that we've got now is much stronger.
Leo, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, backing up what Carl said, apart from Pritchard, you can see the other two people who got subbed off. They got subbed off for a reason, and I think, especially with, I mean, we'll get onto it, but players like Alan Brown, I think he should definitely be starting this game. And with players like that, obviously Rig, with the form he's in now, Mayenda seems to have a bit of injury problem, but Isidor got his first goal against Watford. He looked sharp. He had a good chance in the first half as well. And Mundell on great form. I think I agree with Carl. Our team right now looks better than that.
Okay. All right, then. We'll get some score predictions from you in a second, but I'm looking forward to this one. I've actually got the afternoon off work, so I'm actually going to go to the gym, get a chippy tea, and sit down and watch this game. Looking forward to it. Let's get your score predictions in the comments below. Just out of interest, though, many fans don't like Leeds, but do you have an affinity to them a little bit? Because, there's so many similarities between your two clubs: the size of the ground, passionate fan base. You've been financial issues, bad management, been down to League One and back up again. They're like your kindred brothers, aren't they, Leeds? Dylan?
I wouldn't go as far as to say I actively like them. I've certainly got a respect for them the same way that I do the likes of Portsmouth's fan base, because it's clubs like us, Leeds, Portsmouth, who've obviously been in the Premier League, come back down, had the struggles, gone through the hard times. And it's the sort of sets of fans who will look at each other when you've got like Man United fans moaning about not spending 200 million in one summer, and you just look at each other and go, do they even know what the meaning of hardship is? So yeah, no, massive fan base, and they follow them everywhere they go. I mean, I do get a bit sick of seeing the Leeds would have took more replies on Twitter sometimes, but no, I've certainly got to have a massive respect for them as a fan base.
Okay, all right then. Let's get score predictions. Cal?
I'm going to say 1-0 to Sunderland.
Leo?
I'm going to say 2-1. I think Leeds have got enough to probably get a goal against us, but I think 2-1 Sunderland, yeah.
All right, Dylan?
I've been seeing a win every single time, so I'll play devil's advocate and I'll say a 1-1 draw.
Okay. We want goals. All right, that's what we want, lads. We don't want a cagey 0-0. All right. Okay. Before we get into defensive midfielders, then we're going to look back at the Watford game and have a look at some of the views on social media and ask you what went wrong. Here's Rate My Take. Tommy says 45 minutes of the worst half of football I've seen us play versus the typical Dan Neil challenge to lose as a game. Welcome back, Sunderland. And it feels like we've been here time and time again. We'll get on to Dan Neil in a minute and his stupidity. But Cal, how bad was that first half?
I would say it was 45 minutes of the worst football. The first 20 were terrible. We just couldn't get out of our half. I mean, their fullbacks were basically playing as wingers, and their wingers were playing as auxiliary centre forwards. I mean, for the goal that they scored, they had 4 men in the box, and our defence was nowhere near them. But then once they scored, we settled into the game a bit better. But yeah, it was obviously too late at that point.
Leo, contrast to Plymouth, I mean, that was a crazy game where you ended up losing. Was this better than Plymouth or worse?
I think it was better than Plymouth in the sense that against Plymouth we went 1-0 up. I think we went 1-0 up and let it slip away from us, and it was kind of the opposite. I agree with Carl. I think as soon as they went 1-0 up, we turned into the better team, probably until the penalty was given. Whereas against Plymouth, after we scored that first goal, it always looked like Plymouth were going to score against us. Sissoko was terrorising us that game. But yeah, I think it was better than Plymouth. But just to to give it away in such a situation like that. It's
Okay. All right, let's talk about that fatal second or fatal decision in the 82nd minute, whatever it was. Nathan says, Dylan, how many more bad decisions are we going to get in reference to Dan Neil? A red card a few weeks ago. He was anonymous against Borough, costing us a point today when West Brom lost. What next? An own goal? And then Jake said in reply, let's hope you're dropped next game. So, big question then, Dylan. Does he get dropped for Derby and Leeds?
I think you maybe see him dropped on Tuesday. Obviously, it's not a coincidence that we've lost 2 games, and in both games we've given away a silly penalty, and we're seeing it after the Plymouth game. Ballard had a bad game, and Le Bris showed that if you cost us a game and you don't perform, then you're not going to be at him aside next game. Seeing him drop out from Metham, and if Alan Brown is back fit, then you probably see him come into the side for this Tuesday. I think another thing which isn't helping at the minute is the fact that Samed's seems to not be fully fit yet. I know he's coming back off an injury. He is just a solid defensive midfielder, and with Dan Neil's sort of poor start of the season, that's probably what we need. So the sooner he gets back, the better, because that sort of pushes Dan Neil in that position a bit. But yeah, I imagine he drops out for Derby, and then depending on how we get on that game, or if he comes off the bench and sort of plays a bit better, maybe he comes back in for Leeds, but we'll see.
Freddie makes that point, says Samed walks past Neil into the starting 11 after that performance. Watson looked good off the bench. Good first start for Isidor. About the only positives from the game. Needs to be much better if promotion is the aim this season. And finally, nice of Dan to gift the opposition the points. It's absolutely pathetic defending from him. Sticking a lazy leg out in the 84th minute. Absolutely shocking. Watford weren't very good either. Cal, when is he going to learn? Because this isn't, like you said, I think before, this isn't the first time. It's not even the second time where we're talking about a Dan Neil decision that has cost you points. This isn't a rookie, 18-year-old lad who's, filling his first season. So how do you excuse it, and what should be done about it?
Go back 2 years, Sheffield United away, he got sent off, poor control of the ball, slides in on a tackle, gets a red card, petulant with the ref against Borough last season, booking, mouths off to the ref, gets sent off against Burnley this season for a stupid tackle he didn't need to make, again around about the 84th minute. And he goes and makes a stupid tackle again in the 84th minute and concedes a penalty. You can't defend him now and say, oh, he's young, he's not experienced, he's not mature enough in the game. He's played over 150 games for Sunderland now through 2 different leagues. He should know. He's got the captain's armband for a reason. Now, he could be a great leader in the dressing room, but on the pitch, I don't know, maybe the armband isn't helping him in this situation. Maybe he's nervous to wear it. What he needs to do is take a long, hard look at himself and go, what do you need to do to be the captain of Sunderland? It's a massive football club, massive responsibility. But the decisions he's making are Sunday league at best. If Brown's in that position yesterday, he doesn't make that tackle.
Yeah.
Or Samed. Neither of them make that tackle.
Leo, what's your thoughts on it?
I think Carl alluded to it. I think wearing the armband on the pitch, I think it doesn't have to be this way, but I think he's lumped a lot of pressure onto himself to be that leader and be I'm going to take a control of a game. I mean, we've seen it. Some of his best performance last season were next to Corey Evans, when Corey Evans had the armband and he was the conductor, and Dan Neil had a bit of freedom to go and connect the passes. And I think, especially with Rig and Job in that midfield, he's kind of more the anchor now. And I think he's putting a lot of responsibility on himself to put tackles in that'll get the crowd cheering, or put a crunching tackle in and win the ball. And it doesn't have to be that. There's an unbelievable player in there if he can get that out of his game. I have no doubt in it. But right now he needs to just kind of, get some pressure off his shoulders, whether that's from other players in the dressing room or from himself giving him that pressure.
Okay. One final one on the Watford game. I don't know if you saw this, but the Watford admin had a little bit of fun at Sunderland's expense. I'm guessing, hopefully, Sunderland won't forget that. Those things come back to bite you, don't they? That was that one. And then finally, what about defensive midfielders then? We've been doing defences all week, and thanks for Dylan, we did right backs last week. Let's just have a look then at what you have on the books in terms of defensive midfielders, given that this is the thread, and nicely timed this question. But who is the best defensive midfield pair if we are playing two from the list there? Leo, you go first this time.
I think. I think Alan Brown's missing off that list. If I'm honest, I think it is just because I haven't seen what Abdul Samed can do. I know he's a Champions League player last season, so he's probably top of that list. But from what I've seen is all I can speak of, and I would say Dan Neil and Alan Brown. Riggs a bit less of a defensive midfielder. If we're talking box to box, Riggs unbelievable, but in terms of defensive midfielder, I think Neil and Brown's probably the best combination. But obviously, Abdul Samed, he could be unbelievable. I just need to see it.
Okay, Dylan.
Yeah, as Leo was saying there, we haven't seen Samed yet, but from the player we're expecting him to be, based on what we know, what we've read about, as he said there, he played Champions League football last season. He was in the Lens side that did really well in the league only a couple of seasons ago. So surely he's going to be a good player. And I think having someone like that who's more defensive minded next to Dan Neil would help with his performances. I was saying earlier, I think part of the problem with Neil is that he's struggling with just to having to be the sort of sole holding player. Like, yes, Rig can sit back and he's like tenacious. He can get involved, getting all the battles and that. But in terms of what he's contributing, it's going forward. He's carrying the ball, he's passing, and Job's obviously running and making all the forward runs. Neil does have to sit back, and as Leo said there, Neil looked good next to Corey Evans, because the best part of Daniel's game is his passing, is his ball carrying. I mean, there was times last season where he was just running, weaving in and out of players like it was nothing. So in order for Neil to play best in this Sunderland side, you do have to have someone who's sitting a bit deeper than him, but then you've got to flip that on its head. We can't drop Chris Regan, we can't drop Joe because they're both being outstanding. So then it gets to a point when either Neil's got to up his performances as a DM to get into our best team, or one of the more defensive-minded lads has got to come in ahead of him in order for Rick and Job to keep doing what they're doing.
Okay. All right. Thanks for that, all of you. Comment below who you think the best pairing is. One final question for all of you. We have reached the end of September now, so we're looking for your player of the month for September. A couple of great home performances that we've had from the Sunderland boys. A couple of interesting away performances as well. But Cal, who stood out for you in this month?
I thought Mundell's been brilliant. I think he's taken on that left wing role in place of Park. I think he's been phenomenal pretty much every game. I mean, even against Watford, he didn't have his best game, but you could see that there's the ability to create something. I mean, he nearly scores what would have been a leading goal in about the 75th minute, cuts inside and hits it. So I think that Mundell's really stepped up, yeah.
Bill. Leo?
I would say Mundell as well, but just to go a bit different, I think Job's been brilliant. I think everything that we saw was a hole in his game last season. He's completely patched that up, and he's been unbelievable this month.
Okay. Dylan?
Yeah, I think the lads have hit the nail on the head there. It's definitely remained Mundell for me.
Okay. No shout for Patterson. That's interesting. He seems to be getting rave reviews.
The highlights, and then you'll realise why we haven't said his name.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Just one thing there, just to go back to that DM quick comment. I would just like to point out, I think Job's defensive tackling this season, from what Leo said, has been brilliant. Yeah. Does that not argue the question that potentially Job sits in as a defensive midfielder and somebody else pushes on? Just throwing a spanner in the works there, lads. Don't mind me.
I wouldn't argue it. I think, to be honest, like what Dylan said, I think when Abdul Samed is fit and he's ready to play, I think Le Bris will bring him straight in, just as he did with Mefflin.
Okay. Right. Thank you, all three of you. Enjoy the game against Leeds we'll be watching. It's going to be an absolute classic, I hope. And we'll catch you next week to review all of it. If you haven't yet subscribed, you know what to do. Please press the subscribe button and the like button as well. You can also download this on Spotify and listen on your way to work, on your way home from work. And these three and myself will join you next week on Where Black Cats Walk. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great